Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about the process of globalization. Mainly, I'm going to focus on two areas. First one is definitions of globalization, and the second one is history of globalization. So before we start, before I proceed to the definition and history of globalization, I like to introduce the term of globalization. So the globalization, I know everyone know that the concept of globalization. So in my view, globalization affects everyone in food we eat, the way we eat, the transport we use, and all the different gadgets we use in our everyday work. Then the term globalization has been defined by various scholars, giving a broader meaning to it in the discipline of social, economic, cultural, and political aspects. So what is this globalization? So the globalization has been defined from many scholars, even though most analyses abbreviate it to mean economic globalization. Now when talking about the definitions of globalization, actually we cannot find an exact definition of globalization, but there are so many scholars who who explain this globalization process in various disciplines such as social, economic, cultural, political aspects. So, I said before, many of them are tended to explain this globalization as an economic process, as an economic globalization. But some of the other aspects of globalization, such as political, social, and cultural globalization, also play a very important role on this process. Now, I'm explaining about the definitions of globalizations. No, there. Therefore, it is not possible to understand all the definitions in this introductory session. I am going to drag some of the prominent definition on globalization. First one, Anthony Giddens. So Giddens in 1999 wrote, the global spread of the term is evidence of the very development to which it refers. Every business guru talk about it. No political speech is complete without it. Yet as little as 10 years ago, the term was hardly used, either in academic literature or in everyday language. It has come from nowhere but to be almost everywhere. According to Giddens' explanation, the process of globalization, the meaning of globalization itself. So, because he's saying that the spread of the term of globalization, by looking at that, we can get an idea how this globalization is powerful. So, in the ancient time, as you know, we maintained relationship with foreign countries to import and export of goods. So this is coming from ancient time. This one I'm going to talk later. Now talking about definition, the very important and prominent definition was Anthony Giddens' definition. I can drag another definition of Ulrich Beck in 1992. He concentrated on the political, economic, and social aspect of globalization. So this Beck's definitions on globalization is that it is the intensification of transnational spaces, events, problems, conflicts, and biographies. What is this? So Beck introduced the concept of risk society because he saw the process of, he called it as risk society because he saw we are living in a risk society. The concern is no longer with the distribution of goods but also distribution of bads. Another example we can drag from George Ritzer's explanation in 1993. Ritzer explained the idea of globalization. Globalization, what is this globalization? This means that global institutions are brought into the local community. For example, now McDonald's is there. McDonald's are spreaded all over the world. So McDonald's has a policy providing standardized services wherever they have franchises. As such, it is a globalizing force. So for example, we can take India. Indian people not eating beef. So the cow is a sacred animal to them. So as they are not eating beef, so McDonald's trying to provide vegetarian pizzas, other meat included pizzas. They are producing the beef contained pizzas and other food. Like that, we have so many scholars: Arjun Appadurai, Ronald Robertson, George Sister, as I said, Ulrich Beck. So each and every scholars have provided so many definitions. So I drag here only 3 definitions. I think it's enough. It's enough to get an idea about globalization. Next, I'm going to talk about the history of globalization. Here, the history of globalization, this word globalization did not emerge till the latter part of 20th century. This word of globalization only did not emerge the latter part of 20th century but the process of globalization happened. As I said, in history, they maintain relationship with foreign countries. They maintain economic affairs with foreign countries. They exported goods and services. So the thing is, this word did not exist and did not emerge till the latter part of the 20th century. But instead we use internationalization, westernization, liberalization, universalization, deterritorialization, like that we used. When talking about now I'm explaining about the history of globalization. Then there are 2 perspectives on the evolution of globalization. First one is globalization is a novel concept which began with the attempted trade and economic policies of USA, which were introduced by President Ronald Reagan in 1985. That is the first one. The second perspective is that although the word globalization was not in use, the process of globalization existed, which had evolved through many centuries. Okay, the aim of this part is to explore the nature of historic overview in the emergence of globalization process. In a broader sense, globalization refers to a complex process of increased interdependence, integrations and interaction among people, societies, cultures, institutions around the world in the sphere of economy, culture, knowledge and politics. However, the word globalization has many specific uses in contemporary discussion. As I said before, the term globalization used as an economic term to denote the acceleration of interconnection in the global economy during the last few decades and the related phenomena of rise both relatively open international financial markets and global corporations. Here we can take examples from that trading has been how this process of globalization happened. For example, Trading has been around for a long time worldwide, especially the economically advanced countries. Advanced countries in the West extended their trade throughout the world via various strategies such as colonization and neo-colonizations. Uh, the story of that is the fall of Constantinople. Constantinople means the capital of Eastern Roman Empire. The fall of Constantinople to the Turks in 1453 disrupted the traditional land trade route from Europe to Asia. Europe was forced to find alternate maritime routes. As a result, they found a new road through Asia to continue their trading. This resulted in the finding of the famous Silk Road, which could be considered as the first wave of globalization. Remember, when talking about the history of globalization, it is important to indicate the first wave of globalization. First wave of globalization is finding of the famous Silk Road. The emergence of second wave of the globalization process should studied within the context of colonization. In the 19th to 20th centuries, trading from and to the west were largely accelerated due to the colonization period through facilitation of powerful governance mechanism. Uh, it was not known as globalization during that time. As I mentioned before, the term was not there, but the process was there. However, the colonization process contributed significantly to expand trade around the world. They done it, expand the trade around the world. So uh, you around the world during 1970s, trade liberalization expanded through Western European countries, including United Kingdom and the United States of America. So those attempts of trade liberalization have made huge impacts on the economic globalization process throughout the world. Okay, that is the second wave of globalization process when talking about the history of globalization. Then, the third wave of globalization process marked the Industrial Revolution, which took place in Europe and America from the 19th century to the first half of the 20th century. But the mid 19th century, industrialization was well established throughout the western part of the European Americas, northwestern region. By the early 20th century, the United States of America had become the world's leading industrialized nation. So that is the third wave of globalization. When talking about fourth and most advanced stage of globalization process can be seen with the large scale expansion of multinational corporations and neo-colonizations. Oil companies, for example, oil trust by the Rockefeller Foundation in United States is considered as the first multinational company in the world, and also World Bank and International Monetary Fund IMF contributes significantly in the process of neo-colonization. Okay, when I today I discussed about the process of globalization, definition of globalization, history of globalization. Hope you guys got some idea about the process of globalization and what is the globalization process. So keep in touch with us. I will upload more videos about globalization, process of globalization in my coming videos. Hope you enjoyed my video. Hope you enjoyed my lesson. Thank you so much.